Today we are going to show you how to model the geometry of your structure, more specific the drawing and selection features of diamonds. We are now in the diamonds environment and in the geometry configuration. With the button in the right bottom corner, you can select the view, either a 2D plane or a 3D view. Drawing is possible in all 2D views and in 3D between existing nodes. Let's select a top view. As you can see in the background, there are little dots visible. These are the snap points of the grid. You can change the settings by double-clicking anywhere in the screen or using the grid settings button. We start drawing. Oh, no. Stop. Today we are going to show how to model the geometry of your structure, more specific the drawing and selection features of diamonds. We are now in the diamonds environment and in the geometry configuration. With the button in the right bottom corner, you can select the view, either a 2D plane or a 3D view. So drawing is possible in all 2D views and in 3D between existing nodes. Let's select a top view. As you can see in the background, there are little dots visible. These are the snap points of the grid. You can change the settings by double-clicking anywhere in the screen or by using the Modify Grid Settings button. Now, the unity in our drawing environment at this point is meters. You can see this over here. So this is diamonds and the unity is meters. If you want, you can change this at any time by means of the menu options, units and decimals. You can change it to inches or centimeters or whatever you prefer. We start by drawing our first line by means of the create line function. So it's not necessary to create points first. You can start directly by creating lines. There are now two possibilities. We can either draw directly on the screen or enter coordinates with the keyboard. I'm starting with the last possibility. At the bottom of this window, over here, you are asked to give the begin point. As we are currently in the 2D view, you only need to enter two coordinates. So this is X and Z, separated by a semicolon. So let's keep it simple for this example, and let's start at 0, semicolon, 0. And I press enter to confirm. The next point, I want it to be 5 meters vertical upwards. So the next point will be at 0, semicolon, minus 5, because we are working in the opposite direction of the z-axis, minus 5, enter. The next point needs to be 6 meters horizontally to the right side. Now we have to be careful. The coordinates that we enter are absolute values. For the previous point, this was okay, but now I want to enter relative distances. So you can do that by putting an @ sign, so an @ sign, in front of the numbers. So in this case, it will be 6, semicolon, 0, confirming with enter. And I can, for example, I can go upwards again at 0, semicolon, minus 4. And I'm going vertically up right now. Now, at any given time, you can switch from the keyboard input to drawing directly on the screen. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. You can go with the mouse to where this line should end and you click with confirm. At the bottom of the window, over here, you can see the coordinates change as the distance x, y, and z. I want it to be 6 meters horizontally, so I'm looking, I'm at 5, 6 right now, so I click to confirm. The drawing function is not ended. We can continue drawing lines every time and starting from the last created point. So I'm going to go over here, vertically down like that. In the meantime, you see point numbers and line numbers appearing. Now I want to close the contour, and as I'm approaching closer to point 1, you see that diamonds will automatically want to snap towards this point by drawing a little blue circle around it. So that means if I'm going to click, I'm going to close the contour and I'm going to join the point 1. So I click to close the contour. Now, I do not want to continue drawing from this point. However, I do not want to end the drawing function. So I will hit the enter button, or you can also use the right mouse button. This will allow me to stay within the drawing function, but start at another location. If I wanted to end the drawing function completely, then I would have to use the escape button. We are going to create some additional lines. So the first one starts from point 3, and we want to go perfectly horizontal towards line 6. How will I be ensured that this line will be perfectly horizontal? Well, I can use the shift button. So holding the shift button down will ensure a perfectly horizontal or vertical line. Also, you can use this function to create a line that is perfectly 45 degrees inclined. Now, moving closer to the other side, the software will propose to make the perpendicular junction. This also works, of course, for inclined lines. You can go, for example, halfway, make the halfway junction, make the middle junction. I'm going to click here to confirm, and I have a new line created. Now, of course, we do not want to continue drawing over here, so I'm just going to click enter. And I can continue at another location, for example, over here, and again, making the perpendicular junction. Now, I want to end the drawing function right now, so I'm going to use the escape button, or you can use the arrow button over here that has the same function, so escape. Let's also create some points. So I'm going to click the create point button, and you just click to add them, for example, over here at the current position. Now, using the escape button again to leave the create point function, of course, you can double click each point to modify the coordinates. So double clicking this point, you can modify the coordinates. For example, instead of the coordinate z being -2 meters, I can set this as -2.5 meters. There we go. And following the same method, we can also double click every line, modify the length, the angle, even the cross section, and all the necessary parameters. Now, within this closed contour, we want to create a plate. Now, as you can see on the left side, the create plate icon is not active. So we must first select all the lines of the contour, of a closed contour. In order to do that, you have several possibilities. You can select all elements one at a time. When you move closer to a line, you will see two parallel blue lines appearing. That means if you click now, the line will be selected and it will be displayed or represented in a yellow-orange color, a little bit bolder than a normal situation. So that means right now with this color and with this bold appearance that the line is selected. You can add or remove elements to the selection by holding the Shift button down. So I can add elements or I can remove elements by clicking on them again. Another option is to draw a selection frame. A frame from left to right will select everything completely lying within the frame. A frame from right to left will select everything that is completely or partially in the frame. So in this case, I think a selection frame from left to right is the easiest. Another possibility, this is the last one, is using the Control button plus A. That will select everything too. Now, once we have selected the contour of all elements within the same plane, and it's a closed contour, of course, so the Create Surface button will turn active. So let's click on this. So you can use this for creating any type of plate, so floor slabs, walls, inclined plates. You are not limited to the horizontal plane or to the vertical planes. Whenever you have a contour, a closed contour with all elements who are in the same plane, you can create a surface within these elements. Now, as you can see on the screen right now, the plate numbers have appeared too. So the information shown on the model is a user setting. It's yours to decide. You can click on the I from information button, to set the parameters that are being displayed. So currently we have visible the point number, the line number, the surface number, but you can choose, for example, to show the buckling lengths. That could be a possibility. If there is information that you often need or often want to see, it might be worth storing this into a permanent setting of a configuration, like a saved view, as you want. So check the info that you want to show. For example, the buckling lengths. Give it a name, geometry plus buckling lengths. Click the Save Configuration, and we have now a new configuration. As from now, and I'm just going to click OK, this will be present. This will be present in every Diamonds model and can be selected from this drop-down menu. So this is a very useful feature that allows you to quickly switch views or items to be displayed. And it can also be useful for the report manager to show the required information in the report. I will go back now to the geometry, which is in my case without any line plate or point number information. Now moving to a 3D view. Now here in the 3D view we can rotate the model by means of the scroll bars at the bottom side, the lower side, at the right hand side. Alternatively, you can rotate the model with the 3D orbit function. So hold the Shift button down together with the scroll of the mouse, and you will see the shape of the cursor of the mouse changing into a 3D orbit one. And when you move the cursor or the mouse around now, you will have the 3D orbit function. Of course, you can always zoom in and out. That seems quite logical. You can also use the pan function by means of the scroll of the mouse, of the wheel of the mouse. If at a certain point you have lost your model, which can be possible, you can always call it back using the Show All Fit to Window button over here, or if you have lost it again, it can happen. You can also use the F12 function. It doesn't work on my computer, but you can use it on yours, the function 12 on the keyboard. Now, currently the model is shown in orthogonal view. If you want, you can choose to set it to perspective view. So this is in the menu view, perspective view, for example, and we have maybe another way of looking at the model. In a 3D view, you can also draw lines, but only between existing nodes or using the intelligent cursor, meaning the parallel lines, the orthogonal junction, or the middle halfway junction possibility. This is again, of course, with the create line function. Another option, instead of just creating empty lines, is drawing beams, column, and walls directly on the screen. Let us start with beams. So I'm clicking Create Beam, and you can draw new beams like you would draw a new line. So for example, halfway here towards halfway over there. This is like creating a new line, and you can also draw over existing lines. So this beam will have a default cross section and a default material, which of course can be modified, can be edited at any given time. So I'm just going to create these ones over here. Escape. Made a little mistake. So this is for the beams. We can also create columns. For this, we just going to make the create column function active, and we only need to click on an existing node. And you see the column appearing immediately. Same thing with the create wall function. So we can create walls and we draw them directly over existing lines, and you see the walls appearing immediately as we speak. And last one, I can put one over here, for example. So in a 3D view, I can also create new lines. I'm just going to show you how to create like a simple line in 3D. For example, over here, creating a line from this point halfway to that point and making an additional line here. And what we can do right now is select these lines with the Shift button, and we can create a plate with the Create Surface button. And we have created a new piece of wall right now. Now, after creating the columns and the walls, as you can see, they have a height. And where does this height come from? Well, first of all, let's measure this distance with the ruler function. It's over here. Let's measure it. So I'm clicking the first point, the second point, and the software diamonds will display me the height, which is currently 2.70 meters. So where does this height come from? Well, it's an automatic setting in the level manager. Now, the use of the level manager is optional, so you don't have to use it if you don't want to. However, especially for concrete structures, it can come in handy. When we open the level manager, here we are, you see that there are currently two levels. The first one is the foundation. It is at 0 meters, y. So the y coordinates is 0 meters. And level 1 is at 2.70 meters. So that means that the height difference between foundation and the first level is 2 meters 70. The advantage of the level manager is that you can easily modify the height of the level. For example, I will change the height difference, or the height of the first level. I will change it to 3 meters 50, and keep your eye on the drawing right now. So I'm changing this to 3 meters 50. When I confirm this new height, the model will update immediately. Did you see it? Awesome. So that is the big advantage of the level manager. You can also copy levels. So let's say 3 copies of the first level, and we will copy them above level 1. Okay. Here are the 3 copies. And I click OK to confirm. And we have now created a completely 3D model. What I want to do right now is create an extra opening in the plate on level 2. So this is level 1, this is level 2. How will I do this? Well, logically, this is done in a top view. Now, when I go to a top view, so this is a 2D view, at what level am I currently looking? Well, it depends of the current active level. So for example, if I select an element right here and I go back to the 3D view, you see that the line of level 1 is selected. Not another line, it's just the line of level 1. So going back to the top view, and I'm going to select right now level 2, that means that I will work right now in level 2. So for example, I will draw some lines, a little square, just like that, pressing the escape button, selecting the surface and hit the delete button. The opening is now created. When I go back to the 3D view, you see that the opening is correctly created in the second level as I wanted. This is because the level manager has automatically set the drawing plane to the correct y coordinate. So we can set at any time a certain drawing plane, but the level manager has set this drawing plane automatically correct at y equals 7 meters for me. Let us now add an opening in one of the walls. So I want to add an opening in this part of the wall. So the first thing I'm going to do is check the coordinate. In this case, it will be the the x coordinate. Double clicking, and we have an x coordinate of 15 meters. So what I'm going to do right now is click on the drawing plane, and either you fill in the 15 meters as you remembered, or at this point you can always click a certain point and the drawing plane will take over these coordinates. Okay. So to work more easily, I will keep only this wall visible. So what I'm going to do right now in the front view is I'm going to select this wall like that. And I have 2 possibilities right here in the menu. Either you can hide this a selection. So I have now made a selection of elements. I will show you in 3D. I have completely selected the right wall. I can put this hidden, so that won't be wise because I want to add an opening right there, or I can show only the selected elements, which seems the most logical to do that. And all the other elements will turn invisible, they will be grayed out. So that makes it more easy for me to draw the correct elements. So now in, for example, a right view, and I will draw a little window over here, escape, selecting the plate elements, deleting this. And now in a 3D view, you see clearly that the opening is added at the correct wall position, and I can turn everything visible again. Now let us take a look at the foundation level. So I'm going to a top view and take a look at the foundation level. So what we see over here are the bottom lines of the wall. So if you select one, for example, this one, and we go back into the 3D view, you see that this line is being selected. We will now draw the foundation slabs for this building. So we'll draw the contour. So I'm going to activate the create line function, and I will draw directly on the screen some lines. And take a look in 3D, and you see that these lines are added at the correct drawing plane. In the correct drawing plane, we can select everything right now and create a surface, create a plate again, like that. So let's take a look in the 3D model. I will also add some footings, and you can do this by activating the footing function. And we only need to click on one point, for example, over here, and over here. And I end the footing function with the escape button, just as usual, as you are used to do for creating a point, a line, a wall, and everything else. Now, of course, you can also choose the representation of the model. So we have over here, we have the wireframe. So in the wireframe, you only see lines. However, the plates are still present. Next, we have the transparent mode. There are plates visible. However, they are a little see-through, so you can see the entire structure. This is personally my favorite one. Then we have non-transparent one. We have a solid mode, more type black and white, and then we have completely solid mode. So let's stick with the last one. Now, as you might have noticed, different elements have different colors in diamonds. This is because they belong to the same layer, and in diamonds we call layers design types. And you can easily select them with the control button. So holding control down and clicking on one of the elements with the same color, you see that all the wall elements are currently selected. You can do the same thing with, for example, the columns. Holding the control button down, clicking on one of the columns, and all the other columns are being selected. Same with the footings, same with the plates, and so on. Now you can add, of course, design tabs, and you can modify the color. You can do that over here. For example, let us create an additional type for the foundation element. So I'm going to select the foundation element, moving over to the design type, and I'm going to create an additional, just deleting that one, new foundation. And let's choose a color, maybe bright green. Okay. And here we are. We have created a new layer, a new design type. You can also have different windows next to each other. So let's create an additional window. Create a new window. So this window is newly created, and you can put several windows next to each other. I'm just going to unlock the two windows I'm not going to maximize them anymore. So as you can see, this is the second window created. This is a top view. And I see that this foundation slab, all right, this is the top view, as you can see. So in the first one, we have a 3D representation of the model. In the second one, we have, for example, a top view. So both of them can have a different content. So that means even if we go for this one, for the first one, to, for example, the loads, we can, for self-weight, we can show loads next to geometry, or even results next to geometry, or loads next to results, and so on and so on. So you can make as many windows as you want. So the last thing I want to show you concerning the selection possibilities is not in this model. I will show it to you in a more steel example. So I have a steel model over here. And lastly, you can select elements by means of the select menu. So you can use line number, vertical line, horizontal line, incliner, also cross section. So we have different cross sections present in this model right now, and then you can select them as you want. Just before we started today, I've added some lines. I've drawn some new lines, and these new lines don't have a cross section yet. So if I want to select them very fast, very easy, there are two possibilities. Either you go with select cross section question mark, then you have selected all lines who do not have a cross section yet, and then you can go, for example, towards the library in diamonds and assign a certain cross section. Another possibility is that you use the control button. So you hold the control button down, you click once on one of the lines with no cross section, and all of them will be selected at once, because also the not having a cross section is these elements are stored in a certain layer, so these are easily selected. So we've come now to the end of this session. So I would say thank you for watching and hope to welcome you again for a next video. Bye-bye.